Welcome to the Freak Show podcast, hosted by Sam Thurmond and Jacqueline Steele Thurmond. Sam is an Air Force Academy graduate and veteran who, after his service and 2 deployments, escaped the 9-to-5 grind by building a real estate investing business that has, to date, accounted for over $50 million in real estate transactions. Jacqueline is an award-winning musician, former owner of boutique branding agency Steele International, real estate investor, and designer for luxury multi-million-dollar homes.
We are so excited to welcome you to the Freak Show podcast, where we center our content around the frequency of belief.
Why? Because when we overcome fear and self-doubt, basically by getting out of our own way, we can make the impossible possible.
And in this podcast, we are going to share our favorite mindset tools and life lessons that have completely transformed our lives and businesses. So without further ado, let's get freaky.
Welcome back to the Freak Show. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Jacqueline Steele Thurmond. I'm Sam Thurmond.
Welcome.
And today we are talking about mind control. Ooh. All right. Yeah, we're not talking about how you can control other people's minds. We'll leave that to the 3-letter agencies. What we're going to talk about is the importance of mastering your own thoughts on today's episodes. Mm-hmm. I'm somebody who tends to internalize and live in my head quite a bit. My inner voice is very strong. I haven't always been super conscious of how my thoughts impact my reality. The face that you're looking at me with right now is
what? I don't even know what face I'm making. I feel like I'm just smiling at you. Am I not?
You're kind of looking at me like, you think?
Yeah, I was a little.
As your dad would say. But yeah, so I've not always been someone who is super conscious of my thoughts, like paying attention to my actual thoughts. I get lost in them and go down a rabbit hole because my brain just won't stop. But I've never been able to, I won't say I've never been able to, but I haven't always been present enough to take a step back and observe those thoughts versus just letting them kind of run the show, if you will.
I'm guilty of the same thing.
Yeah, I think we all are to a certain extent. I think some of us are just a little more susceptible to it. But next month, we're going to do a whole series to coincide with
a launch.
Yeah.
We've got some super exciting stuff coming up. We're not going to reveal it yet, but if you stick around, we are creating some what could be mind-changing, life-changing things.
Yeah, we think it will be. So next month,
I know it will be.
Yeah.
Because I have mind control.
That's awesome. Glad one of us does. But we're going to do a whole series next month on thoughts creating emotions, emotions creating energy frequencies, and how those frequencies manifest like energy in your life. But today we're just going to talk about managing our thoughts. You know, let's just start at square one. It's the 80-20 in all of this. It's the one thing that's going to have the biggest impact, and that's managing your own thoughts. And we've got a few steps to go through here. They're very simple, but they're life-changing if you can just be aware of it.
Most things that are life-changing are simple.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Take the Steve Jobs approach. Let's make something beautiful and really simple.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah. So what's the first step, Miss Jacqueline?
I think awareness is the first step. And meditation is a wonderful tool for creating awareness, right? We are, when we meditate, supposed to sit down and just observe our thoughts and observe what is happening. And then as we become more enlightened, hopefully we master our thoughts enough to let them go completely.
Yeah.
So we can just be, right? But awareness is the first step. And it's awareness specifically around our inner dialogue. And having the presence to be aware of the conversation that's happening inside of our heads is the first step.
Yeah.
And an easy way to start, according to your outline, and I agree with you, is to take 6 deep breaths and then just pay attention to what thoughts are rising up. Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they helpful? Are they not helpful? Are they based in fear or are they based in love? And are they aligned with the outcomes you desire or not? And these are very simple questions. I think something that I repeat to myself quite often and have for years, I used to have it on a little bulletin board in our RV when we were living in it, is choose the loving thought. And that mantra of choose the loving thought is an immediate invitation to go, is what I'm thinking based in love and based in the life that I want to be living? Or is it based in fear and fear projected thoughts?
Right.
Yeah. So often we let the subconscious thoughts run our lives without taking a few seconds to recognize what they are and how detrimental they can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're basically just, unless we have that level of awareness, we are running on autopilot and allowing our programming to navigate us through life versus actively choosing our thoughts. And I remember the first time that I consciously became aware that my mind was just running wild without any like real input from, I'll say me.
Yeah.
Because we are separate from our thoughts. But it was when I read Eckhart Tolle
I think it's Tolle.
for the first time.
A New Earth.
Yeah. After I got out of the military, we were living in California, and it was just mind blowing because I'd never even thought of the concept.
You guys, he was ready to wear all white linen and meditate for 8 hours a day. Truly.
Yeah,
It really changed his life.
I feel like I was
You became a different person. You were smiling all the time. It was precious.
Yeah, it was, that was a good period, but because right before that, I felt like I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
You were.
Oh man, that's
We
what
can
happens.
laugh at it now, but it was serious.
Yeah,
then.
yeah, but that was, it was a beautiful revelation that, we are not our thoughts, and just being able to have that awareness, one, that is happening, and two, that we fully have the capability to actively program ourselves versus just running on autopilot. So what's next?
Well, I think what's next is
Or
creating.
did I skip ahead?
No, what's next is creating separation from our thoughts.
Yeah.
And recognizing that we are not our thoughts. We're just observing them, which means we have the power to choose what we want to observe and what we want to create. And I think that this point is extremely important. We are not our thoughts. We get to choose who we want to be. And just because we were a certain form in the past does not mean that we need to be that form or will be that form in the future.
Right.
We are constantly in a state of creation, whether you think you're a creative person or not. And so choosing your thoughts will, in effect, choose the reality that you experience, which is a pretty awesome thing when you think about it.
Yeah.
And for people that feel skeptical of that or feel like fate just takes over and everything's already predetermined, challenge yourself to monitor your thoughts for one day and to alchemize your fearful or negative or self-critical thoughts into more loving ones for one day, and take note of how you feel at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if you can tell me that you don't feel any different or you don't feel any kind of shift, then I need to quit my job.
Well, here's the thing. I think if that's what you think, that's the reality. That's your reality. Like if you think
And that's really sad. It's really, really sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people function fine that way, and some people don't. I mean,
Well, they're in survival mode, for sure. They're not thriving. There's no way that they're thriving.
well, I think there's a lot of complexity, and there's a lot of there's a broad spectrum.
Yeah, and I don't mean that judgmentally, but if you're allowing negative thoughts or self-critical thoughts or fearful thoughts to rule your life,
Yeah,
there's no room for thriving. There just isn't. There's not room for possibility. There's not room for miracles.
yeah. I mean, I think if your programming leans negatively,
You gotta cut that shit out.
yeah, you definitely have more area to have a positive impact, or you would see a much faster shift.
Yeah.
If you were proactive in that.
Can I give a perfect example? Mm-hmm. I had a roommate after college when I was, well, I'm not going to get too specific. I had a roommate after college, and something she would say on repeat was, "Oh, this is just my luck." Mm-hmm. She would say it over and over and stuff like, "Oh, well, this is just what happens to me." And she would experience all of these hardships and so many negative things. And they weren't necessarily any more negative than other people experience.
Yeah.
Maybe with the exception of a couple. But her attitude was just so low vibe that I noticed, like, every day when she would come home from work, she was looking for the things that went wrong. Mm-hmm. Looking for everything that went wrong, nothing that went right.
Yeah.
And that dictated her attitude. It dictated her vibration. By the end of that year, I was kind of like, ooh, I can't.
Gotta get out of there.
I am suffocating in this thick, stagnant energy.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was like a week ago. I was listening to, I think I was listening to like Bob Proctor on Spotify. So I don't know that it was necessarily Bob Proctor who said this or somebody else just in the playlist, but exactly what you just said. When we say,
words are powerful.
when we say that's, just my luck, normally it is in a negative context. Mm-hmm. But in this podcast or whatever it was, he was talking about a guy who flipped that on his head. And whenever something good would happen, whenever he'd get a green light, whenever he'd, find a quarter, whatever it is, that's when he would say, that's just my luck.
Yeah.
So, and it completely shifted that on its head to where now just that saying of expectation of good things to happen, like, now you're programming yourself. Now you're programming your mind to say, I expect good things to happen to me. Yeah. I expect to have good luck. Like, this is what happens.
I'm extremely blessed. Right. I'm extremely lucky.
Because when we stay in that state of, that's just my luck from a negative standpoint, we're just reinforcing that we experience negativity. So then our brain's now going to shift to that program. Mm-hmm. So it's little things like that you start to become aware of, the awareness aspect, that are extremely powerful that we just pay no attention to.
Yeah. And it's not only powerful in our thought processes and powerful for us individually, but it's powerful because we emanate the energy that we are. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you an example of this. I love examples. So I'm going to be the storyteller out of the two of us. Far beyond the time that I met you, way before, I was in a club, okay?
I thought you said in a club, meaning like
no, I was in a
Farmers
club.
of America, which makes way more sense. But go ahead.
Future Farmers of America. I've
from Iowa.
never lived on a farm.
You're from Iowa.
I am from Iowa, but I did not live on a farm. Anyways, I'd love to have a farm someday. I was in a club. This was when I was at St. Louis University, right out of high school, and my parents had just gotten a divorce. I did not like St. Louis University. I was feeling so low and so defeated, but I was going to go out and have a good night. But I went out with this energy of like, I am just so defeated. And in that club, I felt completely invisible, like truly completely invisible.
You've never told me this story.
I haven't?
I don't think so.
And my friends were getting hit on and having a good time. And I was trying to make the best of it. But actually, I ended up having somebody who was of age hand me their drink while they were tying their shoe. And I got caught with the drink and got kicked out of the club. And I actually wasn't drinking. So I've been kicked out of a club. But all that to say, my energy was so low and so defeated that people literally ignored me. They couldn't see me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a couple of years later, I'm that very same person. I look the same. I'm the same weight, essentially. My face is the same. My hair is pretty much the same. But I'm at Baylor University and I'm vibing high because I love where I'm at. I love what I'm studying. I love my friends. I loved Baylor. And on the 4th of July, I end up walking into another club and meeting the love of my life. Truly.
Yep.
Truly. And that was in the span of a couple of years. So my thoughts changed and that changed the frequency I was emanating.
Yeah.
And then I met you.
That's right.
Yeah.
The attraction.
And there were a couple of other guys along the way that
sure.
were attracted. But
Yeah, just a couple. Just a couple. Yeah, right. Beating them off with a stick. Yeah. No, it's true. Your energy, again, we're going to talk more about this in next month, but the energy you emanate attracts the same frequency, the same vibration.
yeah. And you sent me a reel recently, and the guy was talking about how the highest frequency feeling you can emanate to attract others is authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that is exactly how I grew my first podcast, Self-Worth. I did no marketing on it other than sharing it. And it did quite well.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it did well is because people felt my authenticity,
Right.
that I was sitting behind a mic being 100% myself,
Keeping it 100.
keeping it 100.
Yeah, I think that's hard. It's hard to do in the social media age of promotion and marketing. And we think that we want to put out what we think people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And what people really want to see is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
They really want it because that emanates with people. Like the reel was talking about, like it resonates with people when they see something that's not manufactured. They can relate. It's far more relatable. It almost gives you a sense of peace because you're like, that's what humans actually act like. This is not what everything that we see on social media. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I don't want to go too far down that road because I think that's all the kind of stuff that we want to talk about
Sure.
Next month. But to bring it back to mind control, controlling your own mind, what's really helpful for me, and maybe this is just the way I think, is, we're on the advent of AI, artificial intelligence, now more or less just going hyperspeed and accelerating, like a hockey stick on development and technological progress and all that whole thing. But AI is a conglomeration of inputs. Like it's everything that's on, my understanding is more or less everything that's on the internet
Condensed
in its quote unquote brain, and it has access to all of that and can pull from all of those inputs. And then it produces outputs. So we are no different.
Oh, totally.
We are no different in the sense of we run on programs. We have everything we've experienced in our lives makes up our programming. So all the inputs, all the experiences, everything we've read, everything we've watched, everything we've been told, those are the inputs into our minds. And if we are not paying attention, those inputs are processed and produce outputs unconsciously. So the trick is being aware that we have the ability to separate from our mind and choose and direct our mind on what those outputs need to be, because that's what creates the reality. And if it goes unchecked, our brain is just creating a reality for us based on the inputs without any filters, without any input, without anything. And that reality is just going to reinforce itself because there's nothing checking it. It's going to get bigger and it's going to gain more strength. So the important factor, and this is where our consciousness comes into play, and this is what separates us from AI and separates us as God's highest form of creation, is our consciousness and the ability to choose those thoughts, to choose the outputs. And then those outputs that we are selecting start to change our reality. And then the reality creates new inputs that reinforce themselves, just like if they go unchecked. But now we are, what's it called when you like procure something?
Curate.
Yeah, exactly. Curate. Now we are curating our reality based off just selecting our thoughts, the thoughts that we are going to have.
And you know what's interesting is when you said, what's that word? My brain immediately said, I'm going to have the word for him.
And you did.
And I did. But I know that if I would have said, ooh, I hope I can find it. I hope I can help him with this. But immediately my first thought was, I'm going to have the word for him.
Right. Yeah. We're so we don't even know our potential.
How powerful we are.
I'll go off on a little tangent. I talked about AI a little bit. Here's my theory. Sam Thurman's theory on AI.
I can't wait to hear this.
Well, I think that there is a lot of fear around AI and having it go unchecked and the control aspect of AI. And I don't disagree with it. But exactly what I said is true, is that it is a conglomeration, or maybe not, we have controlled the inputs. Now it can self-learn and develop on itself, certainly.
So can we.
And so can we. But so we are creating AI. Humans have created AI. And while from a processing standpoint, it would be far superior than we currently are from a human understanding of our mind perspective, we have only tapped into a small percentage of our minds. And so I need to organize this explanation a little better. But what I think is going to happen is that AI is we are going to utilize AI to enhance or access other parts of our minds because we're God's creation. Yeah. AI is human creation.
Yeah.
And we're looking at AI.
I know exactly what you're saying.
We're looking at AI and putting our own limitations on ourselves. Whereas God created us. So we don't even know we have no concept of our limitation. So I think the creation of AI is going to enable us to access more of our mind, more of our power, and we are going to elevate human consciousness as a result. So I don't think it is a scary thing. And I'm choosing, my output is I'm choosing that it is going to be a good thing. That is going to bring more abundance to this world and to
and more
humanity.
Opportunity.
Because I think the general theme around it is, Terminator. Terminator 2, whatever it is, like the
I haven't even seen those
end of-
movies, so it doesn't even cross my
which is crazy,
my
but
path.
which is more or less, the robots take over and it's just evolution is,
I could guess that.
yeah. So,
So
but anyway,
I know exactly what you're saying. And I think an example to bring that to light would be, once the British Empire was out of survival mode and peasants were no longer peasants, but there was the Industrial Revolution and people were able to have decent jobs and not constantly be hand to mouth sort of survival experience. There was an explosion of art and music.
a renaissance.
A renaissance. There's an explosion of art and music because people no longer had to only figure out how to survive. They were able to read and learn and grow and create things. You think about where some of the best music comes from, and I don't mean to dog on any cultures, but the United States is known for creating incredible music. Great Britain is known for creating incredible music. And I think that's because we have affluent societies that have the luxury to be able to learn instruments and create and write and hone their craft and spend years and years and years doing that. And so if we as humans are able to have synthesized information given to us in bite-sized chunks, and we're able to understand complex concepts faster, then that literally creates more space for us to understand what our minds are capable of.
Yeah.
It creates so much more space and so much more opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and I think that there's there's an evolution in everything, and certainly the evolution of integrating AI into our world, and just like everything, there's good and there's bad. It usually isn't ever going to be just one. So I agree with you. I think that there will be, what you're saying is that it will free us up to
Explore more
and create
in our mind
more.
territory.
Yeah. And I think it just comes back to, we are God's creation and we're putting
Limits on ourselves.
human limitations on God's creation. And I think that we're just going to be, I think it's going to be really cool. We're going to be really cool, really surprised with what we come up with and what we're capable. So, okay. All right. Well, that should be a podcast episode in and of itself.
Yeah, but let's bring it back to the mind control and controlling our thoughts.
Yeah. So where are we in our notes? I think we talked about the awareness aspect. We talked about separation from our thoughts, and recognizing that we are our programming, and so we need to curate our programming in order to affect our realities and shape our
Choose our
realities. Gosh, I think that we may have skipped ahead a little bit and talked about, that was number 3, actively choosing the inputs.
Yeah. And when you think about it, that is so empowering. We get to choose every single day. What do we want our energy to emanate?
Yeah.
We get to choose that. And it's incredibly powerful. It's a hugely powerful advantage that we have.
And we're not just choosing the inputs, we're choosing the inputs and the outputs. So, a lot of times, we'll watch an episode or two of something on TV in the evenings, but we are in most cases very aware of what we're watching from an energy standpoint. And sometimes you just
You gotta watch a dumb reality TV show.
You gotta watch something just stupid.
But they are low vibe.
But you did that, and then that's the output. That's the output. Like, if you're gonna sit there and you're gonna watch this stupid show, and no judgment because I enjoy it just as much as anybody, but it's going to leave you feeling just like that show.
Yeah.
Right.
Low vibe.
Yeah.
Low frequency.
So everything we take in, choosing those inputs, whether it's TV, it's books, it's music, it's whatever, you are taking in a frequency as an input. And then on the output, you're choosing those as well. So I don't mean to steal some of your stuff. Do you want to add anything on as far as the inputs and outputs go?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good to summarize.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I think
Do you see the summary part?
I do see the summary part. Yeah. Sorry. The wheels are not falling off. The wheels are coming into alignment.
Yeah. I feel like your wheels are turning really fast right now.
Yeah. I had the Starbucks right before we started. So, anyway, yeah, I think we covered some good stuff in this episode, as far as managing and controlling our own minds.
And why that's so important.
Right. It really is. If you could do one thing for your life to take control of your life, it would be to actively monitor and curate your thoughts. So to summarize, first, it's being awareness of the programming, awareness of the program that is running in your mind. 2, separating from your thoughts, recognizing that you are not your thoughts. And then 3, actively programming your inputs and actively programming your outputs. Yeah. And then it's just a matter of rinse and repeat and watch your reality change.
Yeah. And I would add that when it comes to actively programming your thoughts, it's as simple as a replacement. If you have a negative thought, you can literally say to yourself, delete, and replace it with a higher vibrational thought, a more loving thought.
That's a really good point. I think, and that was something that took me a long time to learn because it is so simple. I think we have to wrestle with thoughts to understand where they're coming from and why they're recurring and, so forth and so on, especially negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. But it really is as simple as I'm not going to think that anymore. Even if there's part of me that feels like it's true, I'm not going to think that anymore, and I'm going to replace it with something else.
Yeah. And I let me give an example. I think for so many people, and especially women, we have thoughts where we shame our bodies because in our culture, let's face it, we've been conditioned to believe that if we don't have the perfect body, we can't have a happy life. And it's just not true. And so even if you can't go from I hate my body to I absolutely love my body, you can say, hey, I love my lips, or I love the strength of my legs, or I love that this body is so healthy and it's going to take me on this trip next week.
Yeah.
Or I love that this body created the human that I love more than anything in the world. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have to go from one extreme to another, but it can go from negative to positive.
Right. And that's what the real magic happens is when you start believing what you're telling yourself, right?
The frequency of belief? Could it be?
The frequency of belief.
Have we ever mentioned that before?
Right. Because when you believe it, once you're on the frequency of belief, that goes back to authenticity being the strongest vibration because you believe it. Yeah. So you're being authentic. And so now you are hyper creating what you believe.
So change that negative thought into something that you really believe.
Right. But I think oftentimes to make people okay with the process is sometimes it just takes repetition. Mm-hmm. If you don't believe it today, just keep telling yourself. Just keep telling yourself. Just keep telling yourself. Tomorrow, 30 days from now, you're sooner than that. But 30 days from now, you're definitely going to start believing it because you're going to start to see changes.
Yeah.
And then that's going to reinforce.
It's the Wilson Phillips song. Don't you know things can change? Things can go your way if you hold on for one more day.
We just watched
Bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids last night.
But literally those lyrics, if you hold on for one more day, things can change.
Hold on for one more day. Okay. All right. Audience question.
Yes. What's the question for the audience, my love?
Okay, we're going to go through the awareness process. I want you to stop.
Collaborate and listen.
I want you to take 6 deep breaths. I think 6 is the number because I read something somewhere that said 6 deep breaths will change your state.
It does. I've read the same thing
But
over and over.
even if you take 3, that at least you're paying attention. So take 3 to 6 deep breaths. What are the first thoughts you're observing? Don't overthink it. Just what are the first thoughts you're observing? Do they serve you or not? Are they positive or are they negative? If not, what thoughts could you actively replace them with?
Beautiful. And we wish you the highest vibrational, highest frequency thoughts as you go about your day. Thank you for listening. If you feel led, leave us a review and we will connect with you next week.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to The Freak Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beckon Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high frequency living.